What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's going on with Tesla SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have Jerome Powell giving a speech. We have the FOMC meeting and very important data coming out from the Fed and beyond. Before I break down all this information, before I talk about the earnings that just came out, very, very important news about Tesla and how all of this could affect the share price, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. Deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 of them. And the offer ends very soon in just about 10 hours. So, anyways, let's talk about Tesla. What happened for today? Tesla had some bad news that caused the share price to dip quite a bit. And that's the reason why Tesla started off on a weak note. On top of that, the whole market started tanking today because of some negative anticipation of Jerome Powell and also because of some negative news. And that caused, as the market was dipping, it caused Tesla to follow the trend. Tesla's down 5%, SPY is down 1.58%, the QQQ is down 1.89%, and many other tickers are down quite a bit from Amazon. It was down today, but it's kind of bouncing in the after hours thanks to earnings. But besides that, the large majority of stocks are red right now from AMD, not to mention the QQQ and beyond. So with all of this red, okay, the market's a little bit apprehensive when it comes to Jerome Powell's speech tomorrow. There's also more news about that. For Tesla, we started off on a very weak note because of this news right here. Tesla's conducting more layoffs, including two important executives and then also the entire supercharger team. There's been a lot of talk about Elon Musk and his email to the others out there saying that more than 10% of the global workforce of Tesla is going to be laid off, sadly, because of what's going on. And that's including the entire supercharger team and the executives responsible for negotiating the NACS adoption. Very, very sad news, if anything. I really appreciate everyone that's a part of the team. There was also bad news that came out that Evercore has cut their price target on Tesla to $145 a share, saying that there's going to be a lot of hurdles for Tesla still, despite what they said during earnings. And there's been a lot of negative news about, Elon Musk and Tesla entering China, about how China is going to be very competitive in this and that. So the news was very negative sentiment about Tesla, talks about layoffs, talks about price cuts by these analysts. That caused Tesla to dip even harder than the market. And then the whole market also came down. So why is the market dipping? I want to talk more about that and then break down some things about tomorrow. Tomorrow is going to be an absolutely massive day. So what's going on? Tomorrow is going to be Wednesday, May 1st, 2024. Okay. So 15 minutes after the market opens at 9:45 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, do not forget and do not trivialize that we have the global manufacturing PMI report coming out. This could cause some volatility, so watch for that. And then 30 minutes after the market opens, we have the final main pieces of data for some time. We have the JOLTS job openings report, the ISM manufacturing data, and very important jobs numbers. So JOLTS job openings and job quits. That is going to cause some volatility. The manufacturing new orders are also going to be very important for inflationary projections. So this data is going to be very important. Expect some volatility 30 minutes after market open. So 15 minutes and 30 minutes after market open, expect some volatility depending on what this data looks like. And then I think that the market's going to slow down for a couple of hours. It's going to be trading sideways during this next period because we're just getting ready for the interest rate hikes or the interest rate hike decision, excuse me. And that's going to cause the next move. So volatility for the first 15 and 30 minutes, then sideways price action for a couple of hours. And then at 2 p.m., we have the interest rate hike decision coming out. This is going to be very interesting because we are expecting a 95.6% chance that the Fed is going to keep rates the same. But that's not really the scary thing. That's not going to really affect the market much. Yes, the market may pop if they end up keeping rates the same. I think there could be a little rebound. However, the future projections is also going to be very important. What are they telling us about June, July, September, November? As of right now, the market's not expecting any cuts until like September to November, but this could change depending on what the Fed ends up announcing. And that brings me to the final thing of the day that's the biggest factor. That is going to be Jerome Powell's speech at 2:30 p.m. So when Jerome Powell starts speaking at the press conference, he's going to be either more hawkish, more dovish. That's going to cause some big moves. The market was fearful that Jerome Powell might be a little bit more hawkish because of the inflationary data. There's been a lot of talk about that today by different analysts, and that's not the best of news for the markets. Why may Jerome Powell be hawkish? I'm not saying he will be. I'm just saying analysts are saying that because the inflationary data is not the best. When you look at inflation right now, we have CPI right over here, the blue line. We're seeing this increase in CPI for all items. For all items without food and energy, this is actually just dipping a little bit, but it's still well above the Fed's target, right? This inflationary problem has been going on for a very long time. It's been years, right? It's still a big issue. The Fed still has a lot of work to be done, and that's going to be key for the markets. So, in my personal opinion, I'll talk about this specifically in the charts in just a few minutes. As a reminder, volatility will come for the first 15 and 30 minutes of the day tomorrow. Then the market's going to be very sideways for a couple of hours after that. Then when the decision comes out, the market may kind of pop a bit, then drop, or maybe pop and hold up, depending on what the Fed ends up announcing for the future. And then when Jerome Powell starts his speech, that's going to either cause a big rug pull in the markets or it might cause a big move to the upside. So it all depends on what Jerome Powell says tomorrow. All right, that's going to be the biggest factor in my opinion, and we'll see how things go. Just some quick reminders. We had earnings day. We had Amazon, AMD, and Supermicro announced their earnings. For tomorrow, we have Pfizer, CVS Health, and then a few others. We'll see what happens with those. For Amazon, they actually are a little bit in the green right now. They actually had pretty good earnings, in my personal opinion. So their EPS was beat at 98 cents. Good earnings from Amazon. Revenue was $143.3 billion above expectations, which is good. Web services was 25 billion above expectations. Advertising was 11.8 billion dollars above expectations. Operating income was more than 200% in the positive direction, and they actually saw sales increasing 13%. Good earnings, raising their forecasts. Good growth. They did not announce any kind of dividend, but they did see advertising units surge 24%. So good earnings, beating on EPS and revenue. Good forecasts. That's why the share price is up a little bit for Amazon. AMD, on the other hand, is actually down about 7% in terms of its share price. That's despite the fact that they're saying that they're going to sell about $4 billion in AI chips this year. When looking at their forecast, they're in line with expectations, but that wasn't really enough to get the share price to run. EPS was 62 cents adjusted above expectations. Revenue was just barely meeting revenue at 5.47 billion, maybe not enough to wow investors. And then their sales for the current quarter is at about 5.7 billion as the expectation, which is actually the same level that Wall Street was expecting. So their guidance is not the strongest, it's just aligned with expectations, and that's the reason why it's not really running as hard as it could have. For Supermicro, the full year guidance was strong, but their uh, earnings were not too good for the present. So EPS was a beat at 6.65, but revenue was at about 3.85 billion below expectations, despite the fact that they had strong guidance with good uh, guidance moving forward, good growth projected over 200%. So weak revenue has caused Supermicro to dip. That's why the share price is down. I went over all this news for Tesla. As a reminder, guys, Tesla is going through a lot right now. Even though their earnings were pretty good, at least for the long term, don't forget that their actual numbers were kind of mixed, not the strongest. Tesla still has hurdles. I'm going to be honest with everyone. We have a high interest rate environment. Whatever is announced by Jerome Powell tomorrow could affect that. Tesla's very sensitive to interest rates, so we'll see what happens. And that's going to be very important. So that's key for Tesla. Tomorrow is going to be more dictated by the Fed and their policies and less towards Tesla's own data, in my opinion. So we'll just have to wait and see. Tesla had about a nice inline rating right here, at least from Evercore, but they did cut their price target, which was a little bit negative. That's why the share price dipped. Wedbush is saying that Tesla should outperform the market. They're reiterating that. The price price ratio has gone up quite a bit, but now it's kind of dipping just a tiny bit because Tesla underperformed today. On top of this, we have a tendency of being green about 48% of the time on Wednesdays, but this depends more on what Jerome Powell says. Look for volatility at about 10 a.m. and also 1 p.m. And besides that, that's all I'm seeing in terms of data. Volume was at about 127 million. That's above expectations. We dropped on high volume. And then short volume also went up a little bit. We started to see more shorting on Tesla. So it is what it is, guys. That's what I'm seeing in terms of its action. So now let's break down the charts. I'm going to actually talk about what I see moving forward and how things could end up reacting from here. So going back to Tesla, I just wanted to call out that Tesla's in a very, very interesting place. It's been dipping quite a bit. And with these dips coming, with the Fed being the next big factor, we'll have to see how this affects us. So I'm going to transition to the 1 hour time frame, then talk about some important levels and what could end up happening for tomorrow. Tesla's on a bit of a downtrend right now. We're just barely holding our 50 EMA, so watch for that for tomorrow. If we bounce, look at 185 as resistance, 187.5 above that. If we end up dipping more, look at support at 180. If we lose that, we're dipping down to 178, and eventually this gap support at 175. In my opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla actually dips a little bit more tomorrow. Looking at the current technicals, this could be dependent on the news, but I do think we might be retesting 180, the very low 180s. And then there could be a lot of sideways price action, and then we could get a bounce. It could actually try to rebound back up towards 185. So maybe during the pre-market we dip a little bit, or maybe during market open we dip a little bit more, and then we bounce back up to 185. I'm calling that level out based off where our EMAs happen to be and also a key Fibonacci level. And then I just want to mention that once we make our way back up here towards our 20 EMA, at that point, it doesn't matter. It all depends on Jerome Powell and the rate hike decision. The rate hike decision typically leads to like a little pop and then a drop, or maybe a little pop. And then Jerome Powell's speech will determine if the pop continues to push Tesla up to 190 or if we get a big rug pull all the way down to the 170s. So that's going to be very, very key. For tomorrow, as a reminder, guys, do not forget that we might see a little drop in the beginning, maybe during the pre-market or during open, a rebound. It's going to rebound likely back up intraday, trade very sideways for a couple of hours, and then it all depends on Jerome Powell. Will Jerome Powell cause this to push up to the 190s, or will he give us a big rug pull into the 170s? Make sure you're ready, make sure you're prepared just to be safe. For SPY, I see something very similar. We're actually dipping really hard right now into the 151 area. If we end up opening up and the data doesn't give us much of a bounce, we could dip all the way down to 499 to 497 before we get that bounce. So I do think that's very probable. Look at resistance at 502. We'll see if we break through that or not. If we do break that, 505 could come again. And if we end up losing 500, look for 499 and then 497. I think we might actually dip a little bit more. We might retest 497 to 499, kind of shuffle in this range right here. And then we might get a little bounce intraday back up towards the 503 area or so. Depending on what happens with the rate hike decision, then we might just trade sideways in the 500s for some time. And then after that, Jerome Powell opens up his mouth. That's going to either cause this thing to run into the 506 plus area, or he's going to give us a big rug pull all the way down to 491. It has to be one of those two, so it all depends on Jerome Powell. Look for a little dip tomorrow. Most likely tomorrow, we're going to grab liquidity down here at our key support, the 497 to 499 area, a bounce back up towards 503, then sideways price action. Then Jerome Powell will cause a big move. We'll see what he causes. That's the most likely possibility, in my opinion. The QQQ is also dipping quite a bit. We could dip even lower towards this imbalance, all the way down towards 420. I could see it dip a little bit more, and then we will see a little bounce likely intraday back up towards 423. We will see what happens after that. It also could depend on what Jerome Powell ends up saying. So look for that little rebound, and then we'll see if we get a big bounce back up towards 425 plus, or if we get the rug pull all the way down to 417. Look for a dip, a rebound, and then we'll see if Jerome Powell helps us or not. So we'll just have to wait and see. That's going to be very, very key for this market. One could also argue that if we do end up hitting like 420, then we get a big bounce. This could be resembling like a head and shoulders, where this is like a head right here, and this is like a left shoulder. Are we about to dip and form like a right shoulder and then end up dipping? We'll just have to wait and see. That depends a lot on what Powell ends up saying. For Nvidia, Nvidia's on a downtrend right now. We got a double top like rejection. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually retest 850, then reject and come down to about 830 during the pre-market or early morning tomorrow. At 830, we could try to rebound again and retest 844, in my opinion. And then we might just see a lot of sideways price action. But then whether we get a bounce or not depends on Jerome Powell. So look for a little dip, a bounce, and we'll see if Jerome Powell pushes this up to about 862, or if we get a big rug pull, we'll just have to wait and see. On top of all of this, I just wanted to mention that the QQQ is in a very similar place as that of SPY. I kind of went over this, but one more thing about this. This will be heavily dictated by NVIDIA, so don't forget about that. And I can't wait to see what the reaction is, at least for the time being. For Apple, we're at support right now. We're watching this 170 area. If we rebound a bit, it could be going up to 171, then eventually 171.9. If we dip a bit more, watch 168 as support. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually grab some liquidity at the 169 zone before we try to rebound a bit towards 171. Then I think we might just trade sideways before Jerome Powell determines what the big move will be. If Powell causes a pump, we have an imbalance to fill all the way up towards 173. And if he gives us a rug pull, we could be sinking to the 166 area. Look for a drop and then a rebound and then sideways price action. Then we'll see what Jerome Powell ends up causing. With that being said, that is it, at least for the main five I typically talk about. Tesla's in a very, very critical place, so we'll see what the news causes as well. But just know that there is a risk of this dipping a little bit more. I could see a bit more downside coming before an attempt to rebound temporarily. And then Jerome Powell will be the big factor determining if Tesla gets a bounce or not. So keep that in the back of your mind. With that being said, let's go over the last couple of tickers for the final 5 minutes before I end up uploading this video. For Palantir, Palantir is looking a bit more bearish to me, at least from a technical standpoint. It might dip a little bit more towards 21.5, and then we'll see what Jerome Powell causes in the others. It might dip to 21.5, rebound to 22 for a little like drop and pop like move. And then after all of that, I wouldn't be surprised if we end up seeing this thing essentially make an attempt to get back up towards our resistance. So it might actually try to rebound back up towards our 50 EMA at 22 flat. And then we'll have to see if that causes any kind of move. In my personal opinion, we might get a little dip right here. I might dip a little bit more than try to rebound before it continues either lower, depending on what Jerome Powell says, or it might go higher. So a little dip is likely going to come, a rebound, and then we'll see what happens after that. For super micro, we're looking a bit more bearish right now. We got this big little rug pull right here. It's going to likely underperform compared to the market tomorrow, so I could see it retesting 750 or even dropping lower. Unfortunately, that is the most likely possibility as the share price is down 10%, and we saw quite a bit of downside already. On top of all of this, I just wanted to call out the factor out there about the other stocks out there. Looking at Rivian, we have a potential double top leg structure. Looks a bit more bearish, but we have support that's also approaching at 8.8 to 8.75. I think we might approach the support right here at around 8.7, rebound to $9, depending on what we get from the rate hike or the rate hike decision, excuse me. And then Jerome Powell is going to either cause us to push up towards 9.3 or give us a big rug pull down to the 8.5 area. Excuse me. And then for SoFi, we're looking a bit more bearish. Whatever is said about the rate hikes will affect the share price. If we're bearish, 6.5 is coming. And for bullish, 7 is coming. I think it might retest 6.6, rebound a bit, try to get back to 6.8, trade kind of sideways. Then Jerome Powell's either going to launch this back up towards 7.3 or give us a big rug pull all the way down to 6.25. For the IWM Russell 2000, I think that we might dip a little bit more towards 194. I do find that to be very, very probable at this support right here. Look for 194 tomorrow. Then we'll see if we get a little rebound intraday back up to about 196. And then Jerome Powell will determine what we end up doing. If Powell causes a pump, we could go all the way back up to 200. If Powell gives us the rug pull, we're going to be dipping all the way down to about 191. And then we'll see what happens from there. For AMD, we're looking a bit more bearish and might actually underperform compared to the market. Look for a retest of 150, maybe goes a little bit higher before it continues lower. I think it might retest 145. And then Jerome Powell will help determine if this gets a smaller bounce or not, but it should underperform compared to the market, in my opinion. For ARM, we're looking very bearish right now in terms of our technicals. It does look to me like it's going to dip a little bit more. So look for a move all the way down towards the 94 area, and we'll see if we get a bounce intraday or not. So it could retest about 98 after that. And then Jerome Powell is either going to cause us to push towards 105 or get a big rug pull. We'll just have to wait and see. For coin, we're actually on a bit of a drop. We could actually dip a bit more to retest either 202 or 200, and then look for a rebound back up to 210. And then we'll see what Jerome Powell causes. Will he pump us back up to 220 or will he give us the big rug pull? We'll just have to wait and see. Amazon's kind of flat right now. It did kind of pop and drop, and now it's back up. It's about 1% in the upside. We might see a little dip on Amazon to retest 175, a rebound towards 179, and then we'll see what Jerome Powell causes. Will he pump us all the way up to 186, or are we about to get a big rug pull down to the 160s? We'll just have to wait and see. Meta's looking a little bit weak and might retest 424 tomorrow for a little bit of a dip. And then once we hit the 424 to 422 area, it might try to rebound back up towards 430. So look for a little dip and a bounce, and then we'll see what Jerome Powell causes. Will he launch us up to 444, or are we about to see a big rug pull back down to the low at 400? It depends on what Jerome Powell says. Microsoft's in a similar boat and might actually dip a bit more to about 388, if not 385 tomorrow. And then we'll see if we get a bounce or not back up towards 400, or if we end up sinking to the 380s. We'll just have to wait and see. For Google, we're also dipping a little bit. It could actually retest its 50 EMA at 162, and then it may bounce back up to 167, come back down, and then we'll see if Jerome Powell causes a big pump back up to about 170, or if we get a big rug pull all the way down to this imbalance at 157. For the VIX, it depends on Jerome Powell. If Jerome Powell causes a rug pull in the markets, the VIX could launch back up to 18 plus. If Jerome Powell causes the market to dip more, we could come down to fill this gap over here on the VIX potentially. I'm sorry, if Jerome Powell causes the VIX to drop more and the market's about to bounce, then the VIX will come down to fill this gap. And if Jerome Powell causes this, to spike, it would be because of the market potentially dipping. So we'll just have to wait and see. If the VIX loses support right here at 14.71 and starts sinking, that's a confluence of a bullish indicator. So if we start losing this and this starts dipping all the way down here, this would mean the market's going to bounce. If Jerome Powell does the opposite, if he causes the VIX to break out, that's going to be because of a rug pull. So just wait and see which way the VIX goes. That's going to be key for us. For the 10-year Treasury yield, we're kind of stuck right here. Jerome Powell's either going to launch this up towards closer to $5. The 5 area, or he's about to cause a little bit of a rug pull down to fill this gap. We'll just have to wait and see. It depends on what he says. Same thing with the dollar. It all depends on his words. So we'll just wait and see what that causes. All right. So with that being said, look for some volatility in the morning once we have all this data coming out. Tesla might end up dipping a little bit more than before it tries to rebound a little bit. And then we'll see a lot of sideways price action. And it all comes down to Jerome Powell and what he says. If the guy is very hawkish, if he gives us the rug pull, the market's going to be coming down. If the guy is dovish, the market could bounce. So we'll just have to wait and see. Let's be patient and we'll see what the Fed announces about the rate hikes. Tomorrow is going to be absolutely massive. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a great day and peace out.